I want to tell you today about a topic that I consider to be very serious, which is journalistic malpractice. And it connects with Behemoth and the festival Bloodstock. Now, I am working on a video dealing with the controversy that has affected Bloodstock as a result of some allegedly transphobic jokes that their booker might have made. But connected to this controversy, I stumbled upon this additional controversy dealing with Bloodstock. Because, you see, for 2022, they have announced that the headliner is going to be the band Behemoth. And as soon as that announcement came up, some of the people who have been criticizing Bloodstock for quote-unquote transphobia have said that Bloodstock should also not have Behemoth perform at the festival because Adam Darsky, better known as Nergal, was involved in a sexual assault. Now, that is a very serious accusation, and I thought that it would be worth looking into it. So I found the article that is being spread and shared, suggesting that this is the case. And it is a 2018 article written in Toilet of Hell. There is no author. It's written under a pen name, which is why I'm not mentioning who the author is. And in this article, titled "Let's Remember When Nergal Watched a Sexual Assault," we even have this big banner photo at the top.
We tried to tell him there was no rape. It was an innocent orgy. Adam Darsky.
Okay, so... Oh, and he now finds the incident funny, by the way. So we're looking at Nergal as this absolute monster, this piece of shit who was engaged in what apparently was a mass or a gang rape. And he now finds it funny. So let's look at what the source is. So first, they are referencing an article that is now offline, but that we can find later in an archive, so we will get to that. But basically, they are referring to a story taken verbatim from Adam's autobiography, Sacrum Profanum Confessions of a Heretic. And in this book, we see a story related to a tour that they did, I think in the early 2000s, with the Norwegian band Cold. And during, in Spain, if I am not mistaken, they met a girl, their Spanish promoter, who Nergal describes as
typical Spanish woman, curly black hair, and eyes like coal.
All right. Anyway, he describes this woman, and he says that the girl is eager to hang out with them, and she gets on the bus. They all start drinking. At some point, Adam goes to sleep, and he wakes up the next day, or wakes up at some point, goes and sees that in the bus, they are all having sex with her. Well, the rape issue comes from the book as well, where he says that the band Cold saw that they had recorded the sex that they had with this girl. They thought that it was rape, and they decided to leave the tour. Now, in and of itself, that could be pretty serious, of course. But here's how the story that Nergal is telling continues. According to him, he says, "We found the tape of this recording, in a dumpster by the parking lot. It was in tatters, but there was some trouble looming. Our tour manager found out about everything. We tried to tell him that there was no rape. It was just a small, innocent orgy. He went to talk to the girl anyway. He wanted to know if she felt like it was rape. No, she quickly responded. It was cool. We played the show in Madrid a few hours later, without Cole this time, and the girl was rocking out in the front row." Now, of course, nobody needs to believe the quotes of a victim given by the alleged perpetrator of a crime. But the problem is that we don't have any other source for this story. In other words, it is not like we have a situation where the girl has given her version, Cold have given their version, and Behemoth have given their version, defending themselves from accusations. That is not the situation that we have. The only source that we have for what happened is Nergal himself in his autobiography. Meaning that if you're going to believe that this Spanish girl with the eyes like coal was eager to fuck them, you should also believe the part where they said that this girl was okay with having sex with them. And this is a very important part if you care about sexual assault victims. You have to understand that sexual assault is not policing the morality of people. It is instead policing people not respecting others' consent. And in this case, we do see, based on the only source that we have for this story, that the girl consented. Of course, our interpretation of this story would radically change if this supposed Spanish girl with the eyes like coal was to show up and say that this was actually a sexual assault against her. But until that happens, we shouldn't just quickly say Nergal watched a sexual assault without actually having the little bit of due diligence that you need to actually understand, well, where is this story coming from? But it gets even worse. As I mentioned, this story quotes another article that is no longer available from a website called metalrecusants.com, but I found the archive version. Behemoth forced to cancel appearance and accused of raping a fan in 2001. So this is back from 2014. Basically, they quote a Polish news website where Nergal would have justified his action. I mean, it is only getting worse and worse and worse. But when we go actually to this original Polish article, we can see that the story is the following. Richard Nowak from the Polish National Committee for Defense Against Sects and Violence filed this complaint against Nergal for this alleged rape that would have happened in the early 2000s, based on what he says in his own biography. The victim, the alleged victim of Nergal, does not exist in this complaint. It was only put forward by the Polish National Committee for Defense Against Sects and Violence. They, the Christian far right of Poland, are the ones who started saying that Nergal raped or participated in a rape, and that was the story that was swallowed whole by this kind of virtue signaling press here in the West. And this is a big problem because you expect people to engage in the most basic level of due diligence when it comes to calling somebody a rapist or that they participated in a rape. And it would be very useful when you are saying that Nergal had to cancel a festival appearance because he was accused of raping a fan. It would be very useful if you said where this accusation is coming from. That the accusation is actually not coming from any fan or any victim of sexual assault, but instead coming from an organization of far-right Christians who are doing this as a weaponization of the law in order to stop an anti-Christian group for performing. Again, if a victim of sexual assault wants to claim that Behemoth or a member of Behemoth or Nergal himself were involved in sexually assaulting her, we need to listen to that accusation seriously and we need to investigate it and see if it's true. The problem is that that is not what is happening here. Instead, we are simply seeing Western left-wing media acting as stenographers without them realizing, for far-right Polish Catholics who decided to target Nergal with this accusation, not because he's actually accused of doing anybody by a victim, but because they thought that calling him a rapist would actually be a good method of silencing a person that they see as a thorn in their side. Now, there is one point that does appear on Nergal's biography that I thought would be useful to point out because I don't like that, which is when he says, I have always thought that if a girl wants to get on a bus with the band, she doesn't want to just drink tea with them. I do think that that is a toxic way of thinking about women because it is this, because I have been in several tour buses with bands and I've never fucked anyone there. So just like I can be taken seriously as a journalist or as a photographer, I don't think that you should just assume that because a woman even wants to just hang out with you, that means that she wants to have sex with you. So that is objectively a very toxic mindset that I hope Nergal has grown out of. But other than that, this entire controversy about whether or not Nergal watched a sexual assault is made up. Because again, it comes from simply not understanding the story that Nergal is telling in his autobiography, where he, and I cannot stress this enough, explicitly quotes this alleged victim as saying that she did not think this was a sexual assault, and then repeating that he is accused of rape without realizing that the sources that they are using come from the Polish far right, who are claiming that Nergal is a rapist, or that behemoths are rapists, or that they are engaged in rape, because they hope that they will be able to silence them and give them this scarlet letter and take them out of polite society in Poland. If you have any comments, or if you have any other stories that you see in the media that you think would be worth discussing, hit me up. I think that these short videos that I am trying to produce every week are actually quite fun to make, very interesting, and that they can actually highlight the very big dangers of simply allowing every illiterate asshole to start writing something. Because actually fact-checking and actually following the story, instead of just filling yourself with a strong opinion about it, is what you need to do as a journalist. I know that we all want to ensure that less women are sexually assaulted, or that less men or sexual minorities are sexually assaulted. But in order to do that, we have to recognize two things. First, that sexual assault is not the same as immorality, so that people can engage in behaviors that we personally find immoral without there being a victim, assuming that both parties are more consented in what they are doing. And second, that we need to protect victims by carefully investigating accusations, not by merely taking sides or deciding that anybody who is accused is guilty, because that keeps us from being able to actually ensure that we reach what we all want to reach: the truth.